Hello, BookTube. I went through the mail today, precious little in the way of literary fare, and none of the gardening or architecture magazines that I've fallen in love with in 2017. But I did get the latest issue of Entertainment Weekly. For those of you who don't live in America, it's the Bible of the supermarket checkout entertainment magazines, and I subscribed to it a couple of years ago because I got an offer in the mail that I thought was a typo. It was like $5 for a year. And I thought, okay, well, that's probably $5 for 5 issues or something like that. But no, it was $5 for a whole year's worth of issues. I've never renewed, and they just keep sending it. And it's entertaining in a way, and this issue is the winter preview, 2018 winter preview. And it's got everything. It's got movies and TV and albums. And if you go all the way to the back, as far to the back as you can possibly go, past everything, past food, past everything, all the way to the end, you get this lonely, ill-lit annex at the back of the magazine. You get books. It's a look forward at 2018's books, and you might think, well, what do you expect in a magazine like Entertainment Weekly? What do you expect them to do? Of course, they're not gonna be literary. They're not gonna care about books, and their readers don't care about books. But I know that's not true, and I know that it's not the fault of their book's editor, because Tina Jordan is the real thing. She's a bookworm, and you know how I know that? I'll show you how I know that. There's the preview for books that the magazine is looking forward to in 2018, and you turn the page, and it's yet more books. And 4 pages devoted to books in a magazine like Entertainment Weekly? That shows real love. Well, I thought we'd go through it. We go through the 20 books we can't wait to read from 2018. And see, I haven't really looked at any of these. We'll see what they pick and what I might think of some of them. So, number 1, the very first book they pick is Gnomon by Nick Harkaway. Which is a big fat novel from the author of the guy who wrote the book Tigerman, which I've told you all unequivocally, no matter what your reading taste is, go and get it from the library and read it right away. Tigerman is a great book, a great entertaining book. You will love it. And Gnomon is this. I think Tigerman. If I remember, I will put Justin Hickey's review of it down below. But I think Tigerman broke through to enough people so that Gnomon looks like the kind of book you write once you've got a little gust of success in your lungs, because it's 3 times the size of Tigerman, and hugely ambitious, narratively speaking, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And not just because it prominently features a shark for you Weisenheimers in the cheap seats. I loved the whole of it, not just that. I think I might have shown it on this channel, but oh, I cannot recommend it strongly enough. Number 2, oh god, okay. Number 2 is The Monks of Mocha by Dave Eggers, the reigning Sith Lord Supreme of the Dude Bros. The video that I could do on Dave Eggers would last 10 hours. It would be a Ken Burns style Dave Eggers video. He's molecularly, almost surgically without talent, and a literary career, much less a literary impresario career as the head of a publishing house and fake leather, elbow patches on his tweed jackets and, hey kid, you can string a sentence together. Come back to me in 20 years when you've seasoned a little. All of that was just plan C. There were plenty of other things he wanted to do with his life first. It's just... So what is The Monk of Mocha? I confess, I've only heard about it. I haven't got it yet. I assume I will read it, just to get me artificial rhesus monkey heart pumping. But Eggers tells the true story of Mokhtar Al-Kanchali, a descendant of Yemeni coffee farmers who lived through the Civil War while creating a thriving business. Eggers traveled around the world interviewing the man's friends and family to profile a Muslim American living in troubled times. Okay. All right. All right. Traveled around the world, I'm sure. Yes, I'm sure that happened. All right. So what have we got next? We no need to dwell on Dave Becker. So I just after that huge rant fest of a video last time, I thought I would sort of be smooth sailing. I didn't know he'd be the second thing that Tina Jordan would pick. And I know what she's doing here. She's saying, 20 books that we can't wait to read. And that might be one of them for her, but this list will not be. She's trying to do what if I had control of the back dungeon book section of Entertainment Weekly, I would do the same thing, which is to broaden the demographic, try to speak to as many readers as possible. So I'm not sure that this list probably more represents her looking through the upcoming catalogs and lists and whatnot, same as I do all the time, and saying, well, okay, here it's difficult to explain the mental process, but it's like mapping the floor of the ocean with sonar. You're not really looking for the parts that will have the coolest animals. You're looking for sort of the dramatic peaks and valleys. I didn't explain that very well. Let's go on to number 3. Number 3 is An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. Gorgeously evokes a new South as it explores mass incarceration on an intimate scale. And it's a novel. Okay, I don't actually think I don't have the cover in front of me here for that one, and I need it, as I don't think I recognize it. Number 4 is White Houses, the new book by Amy Bloom, which is about Eleanor Roosevelt and Lorena Hickok. It's a historical novel about the not-so-hidden secret life of Eleanor Roosevelt. I haven't heard any advanced buzz about it. I haven't read it myself. Haven't got my hands on it. Number 5 is Tangerine by Christine Mangan. One of the most promising debut authors of next year. Mangan echoes Gillian Flynn. No, next year. So this was written before the New Year's. And that just wasn't caught. That's all. Mangan echoes Gillian Flynn and Patricia Highsmith in this tightly wound, exotic story of one woman's new life in Morocco. I've read Tangerine. And if it echoes Patricia Highsmith, then to paraphrase The Lion in Winter, there's hope for every ape in Africa. It was not a debut that wowed me. Okay. Number 6 is The Theme of Persuasion by Meg Wolitzer, which is a fantastic novel about an impressionable young woman in college who meets a flamboyant, larger-than-life, firebrand feminist icon. And, right there, you hear that premise and you think, okay, well, I can sort of assemble that novel. But Meg Wolitzer is a much better writer than you are, or than I am. And the novel that she assembles from those ingredients, it's so good. It's going to get reviewed everywhere, of course, and I wouldn't be surprised if it gets some major awards attention. We shall see. Sorry about the bouncy camp again. The next one is one that I've heard all about. It's got a lot of buzz to it, but I haven't got my hands on a copy. Children of Bone and Blood by Tomi Adeyemi. A YA novel that is supposed to reflect the Black Lives Matter experience and that has been phenomenally popular pre-publication. Rights sold everywhere, movie rights sold everywhere, a huge bidding war. It's just an amazing thing. So good for the author. You see, there's a nice picture of her here. So good for her to have that sort of thing happen, to launch her career. I think this book is her debut. And we've got a whole other page. We'll go through this a little faster. I won't detain you long here. Oh wow. Okay. Number 8 is The Recovering by Leslie Jamison, which is a big book about, the subtitle is Intoxication and Its Aftermath. It's a big book about alcohol and drug consumption and so much more than that. Really, I'm waiting. It's one of those books where I consumed it when I got the advance copy, and now I'm waiting for the finished copy to read it again because it's been sticking in my mind. There's a lot to it. A really good book. If intoxication or addiction has ever impinged on your life, and really whose of our lives hasn't it impinged on, you're gonna want to look at it, see if you might want to invest in it. Number 9 is God Save Texas by Lawrence Wright, the author of The Looming Tower. His study of his attempt, it's a short book, his attempt to try to get Texas. And he fails, of course, because you can't do it. Trust me, I know. I lived in Texas for a long time, and I never understood a single thing about it. Not one single thing about it. The closest that I ever came to an explanation that I really understood, I was talking in Austin. I was talking with someone, an old lady who ran a bookstore there at the time. I was saying, I don't understand a thing about the feeling here of Texas. And she said, well, you remember your history, that for a long time Texas was a republic of its own. It was its own country. And I said, yeah, I remember that history. And I said, and then Texas joined the Union. And she said, there's your problem right there. Let's see here. Oh, God. Number 10 is A Higher Loyalty by James Comey. A book that I am looking forward to reading, I admit, but only because I'm going to do what I believe is referred to on BookTube as hate read it. I'm, of course, going to hate read it. We've got the Bob Mueller investigation unrolling here in the United States. We've got a presidential administration under all kinds of different Senate, House, and now independent inquiries into illegal behavior with all sorts of deals floating around with convictions and in the midst of all of that hoopla, Americans, commentators, editorialists and whatnot, tend to forget that if it weren't for James Comey and his grandstanding, we wouldn't have to worry about it at all because Hillary Clinton would be president. And I'm not going to forgive him for politicizing his bureau that way. I'm not going to forgive what was obvious at the time as an attempt to interfere with the election. So I'm going to read his book with great anger. And I don't think he's going to change my mind. Higher Loyalty. Number 11, That Kind of Mother by Rumaan Alam. Now see, this is exactly why I love lists like this. When they're put together by a true believer who has tons and tons of galleys coming to her office, far more than I get. Far more than the Christian Science Monitor gets, believe it or not. I mean, the publishing industry knows the kind of an audience they're going to reach with this magazine, so they'll send everything. But also, when you're dealing with another bookish person, they're going to find things you don't, no matter how industriously you search. And that's always I've never heard of this book or this author. Coming off his celebrated debut, Rich and Pretty. Oh, no, I have heard of Rich and Pretty. Didn't associate it with that author. This sophomore novel returns to themes of family and culture. And it comes out in May. About a white mother raising a black son. Okay, that does sound interesting. That Kind of Mother. Huh. Okay, I haven't got that yet. Number 12 is the new novel by Michael Ondaatje. Transports readers to it's called Warlight, and it transports readers to post-World War II London for a decade-spanning exploration of memory. Oh, he doesn't always do it for me. He in fact, mostly doesn't. Most of his novels strike me as posing. He gets to a certain picturesque place in the landscape and then strikes a picturesque pose, and that's it. It's like he's getting there and then he's saying, "Well, isn't this a picturesque pose?" But he has passionate advocates, including a must-see video on BookTube about a novel of his that was done by Jason Purcell back when he made videos. If I remember, I will find it and leave a link to it because, oh my, when Jason did things like that, nobody did it better. So, and that video made me go back and reread that book, and I found a lot of stuff in it. So I will, of course, give Warlight a big try. Number 13 is The Outsider by Stephen King. The new novel begins with the discovery of an 11-year-old boy's corpse, and from there chronicles a disturbing, macabre investigation in which the investigating officers talk in slang from 1970s TV Hanna-Barbera cartoons, and all reference Stephen King, the best-selling author, and in which the tension and the complication of the plot steadily builds from chapter to chapter to chapter, and then in chapter 48 of 50, Stephen King, the author, realizes that he left the lights on back in his house, and he bolts up from the table where he's been telling you the story and says, "Geez, I'm so sorry," and takes off, and you never see him again. Aliens did it. Let's see here. Number 15 is The President is Missing, which is a big deal because it's the new James Patterson novel, but this time his co-author, his listed co-author, is President Clinton. So it's going to get 10 times the notice, the critical notice, of any James Patterson book that's ever existed. It won't. James Patterson doesn't need any help with sales from Bill Clinton or anybody else, but it will get written about in a way that no one bothers to review James Patterson. So this book they will write about. Bill Clinton, novelist? Believe it. He's teamed with James Patterson for a subject that he can't reasonably be considered an expert on, the presidency. This mystery explores how the president and the why, explores the how and the why after a president suddenly vanishes. Which we've seen before. Popular shows have done this before, but everybody's going to be reading this for subtext. You know, is this supporting character or that supporting character? Which of these people is Webb Hubble? I don't know. I will read it, of course, myself, mainly because I never miss a James Patterson novel, and don't let the wording fool you there. He's teamed up with James Patterson is pretty ridiculous. That's like saying the Earth is teamed up with the sun to illuminate the solar system. All right, so number 16 is Florida, the new book by Lauren Goff. Lauren Groff, the author of Fates and Furies, which was a book that apparently alone in all the world, I was the only person who didn't like it. In fact, I don't think I've ever liked anything that she's ever written. All of it strikes me as just posturing, just horrible, strident posturing. And of course, that's tonally. And then you go past that, the tone, and of course you have the usual grab bag of millennial literary fiction complete incompetence, where characters repeat themselves in the same conversation, don't seem to realize it because it hasn't been edited and because the author hasn't bothered to notice, or characters don't talk like real people. They talk like a simulation of real people. Like, because you went to an expensive boarding school, and then you went to the Iowa Writers Workshop, and then you spent a couple of years going to Yaddo. You have never actually interacted with a real person. You are the type of person who gets into the backseat of your Uber and specifically tells your driver not to talk to you. So I could be wrong. We'll see. Lauren Groff is a big enough name so that I'm going to be reading her for the rest of her career. And we'll see. Maybe Florida will change things. What's it about? It's a collection of short stories. Inspired by the author's own complex feelings about motherhood and living in Florida. I think fiction comes out of ambivalence, Groff explains. You have this passionate love for something and an equal and opposite feeling of disgust, of distrust or danger. Okay. All right. No mention of telling a story. That's all right. That's okay. That's okay. That's just fine. You're a quasi-millennial writing contemporary fiction, so that description fits to a T. What you're doing is not telling stories that you expect us to fork over $35 to read. Instead, we're supposed to fork over $35 to watch a little window of your weekly therapy session. And once we know what's really bothering you, well, then you get to leave. You don't conclude anything. You just get to leave. I'm basically done here. I've left my character on a road. And really, doesn't that speak to the fact that none of us knows where this journey will end? No, it doesn't. You left him on a road going from one place to another in an active plot. This isn't a Polaroid. It's a novel. God. Number 17 is Sex and the City and Us. Okay. This is the author. This is Jennifer Armstrong. She did Seinfeldia. That was a book about Seinfeld that was actually kind of entertaining. This is a book about Sex and the City. So it'd be sort of the same shtick. It comes out in June. Then number 18 is Give Me Your Hand by Megan Abbott. No one teases out the nuances of female relationships, desires, and secrets like Abbott. In her new novel, she delves into these themes in the world of science when two former friends find themselves competing as adults for the same job. Okay. All right, well, that one I might give a miss. You never know. If I get it, I'll read it, of course. Oh, goodness gracious. Number 19 is Killing Commendatore by Haruki Murakami. The story of a portrait painter. This book is an epic volume that blends Murakami's signature magical realism into a freshly fantastical context. What does that mean? I have no idea what that means. Readers have been waiting to get their hands on this one since it published in Japan last February. That's true, but I don't know what that says. I wonder, though, I know nothing about the book. I purposely stayed away from the stories about the frenzy in Japan. When it says epic volume, though, I wonder, is Killing Commendatore a very long novel? I'll have to find out. I'm sure it'll be on Amazon by now for the pre-orders. And then the last one, book number 20, I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle Mcnamara. At the time of her unexpected death in 2016, oh my God, McNamara, an accomplished armchair detective, was working the cold case of a man she dubbed the Golden State Killer. Jeez, that sentence alone. Though she wasn't finished with her book when she died, she'd written enough of it that her widower, Patton Oswalt, I think I know that name. Patton Oswalt. My mind immediately flashes to Star Wars, and I don't know why. It can't be in Star Wars, or I would know it. I'll find out. Or you probably all know. And her publisher, HarperCollins, were able to knit her masterful prose together. Patton's been leading the way. He just got how Michelle thought about the book, the editor said. If Michelle had been married to somebody else, I'm not sure that we would have pressed on with the book and been able to make it happen in the way that Patton did. Well, isn't that a touching tribute? Wow. Okay, so there you go. Those are the 20 books that Entertainment Weekly is looking forward to in 2018. 20 of them. I assure you that their book editor is looking forward to a lot more books than that. But that's interesting, because that's the books that are reflected in the #1 entertainment magazine in the country. That's kind of a window there, and that wasn't an unsalvageable list. There were things on there that anybody would want to read, that everybody would want to read, one kind or another, which I'm sure is the whole point of the list. But anyway, that's it for now. I'm gonna wrap this up, but I will see you soon. Thank you, Book 2.